Hello, this is Crystal Garvin, and I want to just thank you for taking time to listen to and watch this webinar. This is part two of a two-part message that I have about doTERRA's business opportunity. So if you haven't watched my business opportunity webinar, I encourage you to go back and watch that recording as it goes more over what the business opportunity offers, why it might be a great opportunity for you, and I also share my story. And this will be an overview of the compensation plan that doTERRA offers. So this is part two, and I just want to go over some basics about how we get paid and in comparison to some other companies, what that looks like, and also just share again the heart of what doTERRA is all about. You may remember, if you did watch my business opportunity webinar, that we talk about stopping this cycle of trading time for money, that you don't have to play this game for the rest of your life, and that you may not be able to stop now, but you can start building a pipeline to get you out of the cycle. And you may have to haul the buckets that we talked about again in part one at the same time, but while it's exhausting, you keep that vision of knowing that your pipeline will produce residual income and you'll be able to put those buckets down one day. So I want to encourage you again, just to have that vision, believe you can do it, and don't quit. But let's start out with this webinar on the compensation plan, talking again about what that pipeline is. So a pipeline in our story just represented the ability to turn on the water spigot and have water flowing, which for the man in the village meant a continuous stream of income instead of hauling buckets of water back and forth from the water source to his village. And that's what residual income can do for us, that it becomes passive if we put in the work to build a successful organization with doTERRA, that it can gradually become more and more of a passive income, although we'll always love sharing oils. That's the heart of what we do. We love educating and helping others and leading our teams. But it does become a larger income over time than what one person could generate on their own as they continue to help others reach their dreams as well. So let's look at some retirement statistics. In our country, people over the age of 65, among those, 75% live off $45,000 or less per year. 23% live off $46,000 to $150,000 per year. 1% live off $150,000 to $200,000 per year, and 1% would be considered independently wealthy. So who are these independently wealthy people? Well, they usually fall into four categories. It's pretty consistent that they're either pro athletes, actors, authors, or business owners. And I've actually heard, as a writer myself, that being an author and actually being successful to this level is the hardest of all of these. Now, I'm not a book author. I'm certainly not a best-selling author. I used to be a journalist and newspaper reporter, and I write for fun now. But I've certainly never been a pro athlete or an actor. And for me, really the only feasible way to support my family and reach my dreams of these four is to be a business owner. And we did talk in the previous webinar about the fact that many small businesses are failing in our country, and that even those that are successful do not have residual income because the owners and managers of those businesses are truly feeling like the business owns them, even though maybe they own the business or run the business, that their time is not their own, and they're even more limited in the free time that they have than they were when they were employees for someone else. So that's definitely not a pipeline. So you can be an entrepreneur. Any of us can be, but certainly not all entrepreneurs are making it, are doing well enough to quit their other job, to support their families, to build retirement, to be able to live their dreams. And that's what makes doTERRA such an attractive option to so many people. Just a little bit of history and some milestones and things that relate to doTERRA. In 2015 specifically, we did pass the $1 billion in revenue per year in sales, and we hit that again in 2014 for the first time, actually, and then hit it again in 2015. And we had our first $100 million month in 2015. So this is a very stable company for only being 8 years old. You can see it's very successful and growing and doing well. Just for some perspective on that, another company that actually hit $1 billion in annual revenue in its 7th year, like doTERRA did, was Apple. So just to give you an idea of maybe where doTERRA is going, and our owners and founders do have a vision to make doTERRA a household name and to be in every home. So that's where we're headed. It is an extremely successful company. The US market alone began operating as a $1 billion market, so that excluding all of our international markets. And we're 100% debt-free. Now, the company started out debt-free. The owners actually put up their own assets as collateral and did whatever they needed to be able to front the money for the business, because they were not willing to have outside investors. And they wanted to protect the quality and purity, the standard and the mission of the company. So they were not willing to give up more than 50% of control, which is what investors always want. They want 51% or more of the control. And doTERRA's founders were not willing to give up their quality control and their ability to make sure doTERRA stood by its mission and its standards. So they decided they would personally come up with that money, and they did not draw a salary from the company for their first 13 months. So it began operating debt-free from the beginning, but because of the growth that we experienced in the first 4 to 6 years, it was necessary to take out a construction loan to build some new headquarters buildings in Utah, where the company is based. But those are already paid off, and that's pretty remarkable, less than 2 years after those construction projects, that we are again 100% debt-free. So that just shows you a little about who the company is, what we stand for, and the commitments that we've made. Revenue ranking, as far as direct selling companies go, doTERRA is globally a top 20 company. In the US market, we are a top 5 company. And yes, we are the world's largest essential oil company. So let's talk about the compensation plan and what makes it work so beautifully. So what makes it different from others? And many of you already know, and especially if you heard, again, the first webinar, that I had 8 years of prior experience with another network marketing company. And I am really passionate about various aspects that make doTERRA different, not because I regret or resent my previous company or position. I learned so much from it, and I'm very grateful for it and always will be. But I am extremely thankful that I found doTERRA, because it is different. And something that's different about the compensation plan is how it works, because it's upside down. So I'm going to go into some information about what I mean by that. So when we look at the traditional network marketing compensation, if you're in the UNILEVEL structure, now there are some different structures out there, but the most successful companies do have this UNILEVEL, and it is the best, the most generous paying type of compensation. And so you earn a certain percentage on your entire organization, but it ends up being you earn more on the people who are closest to you in your organization. So in doTERRA, we call this your front line, the people who are on your front line. That's where the word more is pointing with that arrow. And so then gradually, as your organization grows larger, you're going to be earning less on the people farther down. Now, just for some perspective, I personally have brought in around 75 to 80 people into doTERRA. I have personally enrolled these people into my business. And I don't need, at this point, more than a handful of people on my front line, just because of how our structure and compensation works. So I now have about 14,000 people on my entire team. So if I only need a handful of people on that front line, and I've only personally enrolled about 75 or 80 people, but I have 14,000 people on my team, where do you think the majority of the people are? Are they closer up near me in this structure, or are they farther down toward the bottom? Well, of course, the structure is going to grow out and the organization will be larger farther down. So what doTERRA did to make this a more generous plan is we flipped it. So we get paid less on the people closest to us in this structure, in this pattern, which of course some people will say is like a pyramid, but please go back and listen to my explanation of why this is not a pyramid scheme in the previous webinar. And this is, of course, how all companies pay out. There's, maybe a CEO at the top and some other people who are earning less farther down. The farther down that you go, people are earning less money. That's just very typical. However, any people who are even way far down in my organization are welcome to become even more successful than I am by building their own businesses, and I would even help them do that. So it is a very different culture. But back to this UNILEVEL structure. So we do get paid a little less on the people closest to us, but we get paid more as our organizations become wider and larger, and we get paid more on those people down at the lower levels where there are more people to get paid on. So it's a really interesting choice that doTERRA made to give us this option where we can earn more on the largest portion. And so that does mean we're earning less at the beginning in UNILEVEL. It will seem like really small amounts, but they do make up for that in other ways. So we're going to talk more about that. So this is what the UNILEVEL commission looks like. The colored side is what doTERRA's organizational UNILEVEL bonus would look like. So you are up there at the top, and on your level 1, you're just earning 2%. So this is going to be based on a certain number of people placing 150 product value order, just for the sake of example. So you'd only be earning $9, okay? And then as you work your way down, you're seeing more people at those levels, and that 150 PV average is being multiplied out by the percentage. The percentage grows 2%, 3%, down to 7%. And you'll see there, if that organizational volume of 150 per person stayed true, that you would be earning about $32,571 total down through your 7th levels. So you're earning a percentage of sales on each level, and that goes through 7 levels, and you notice how it grows the farther down you go. You earn the least on the fewest number of people and the most on the largest number of people. So if your team is growing at a multiple of 3, it would grow at this rate, and that's what this is based on. However, if we reverse it, which is typical and is very similar to the company I was in previously, you see over there on the gray example, that if we reverse that and put the more generous looking number, the larger number on that top level, so that 7% is on level 1 and it works its way down to 2% on level 7, you're actually earning $20,000 less per month. So this is a monthly average here. So that's a pretty remarkable difference. And UNILEVEL does take a while to grow. It starts small. It's like a snowflake. It's like a $9 check, right? And you're going, wow, that's great. But you're really focused on other types of bonuses and commission at the beginning. And then your UNILEVEL starts to snowball, and you see it gradually growing. And it starts feeling like, wow, that's pretty cool. That's worth it. That's neat to see it growing like that. And then it gets to be this phenomenal snowball that you can't even stop, that it just keeps growing larger and picking up more as it goes. And you start to realize this is not stopping. This is just going to grow larger and larger, and it's way beyond what I imagined. So know that that's what's coming for UNILEVEL, but don't focus on that if you're new. It's at the beginning of your business. Just know that's coming as you're faithful to the process of sharing oils and teaching others to do the same. So let's look at a couple of different plans. So company X, this is a real company. This is real numbers represented here on this chart. And this is what it looks like out there in the real world, but I don't want to share the actual company name because I don't like to disparage and to say anything negative about other companies and their compensation plans and how they choose to do their business. That's not what I'm about, but I do like to use this as an example to show you if there's the same number of people, that's what it's going to look like. In this particular company, they do their compensation instead of in dollars, it's in points, and then each point is equivalent to a certain dollar amount, and the total points awarded will equal, at this particular point in the company, it was $3.25 per point. So the monthly payment for this person would be $15,902. That is a great monthly income. No one's complaining about that. That looks wonderful, right, on paper. But let's put doTERRA's compensation plan next to it, and you'll see that instead of starting with the higher number at the top, we start with the smaller number like I showed you on the previous slide. And if this company valued depth, so this is not actually doTERRA's plan, but just showing you if this company were to flip it, and if they valued depth the way that doTERRA does, they would award fewer points at the top and more points down at the bottom where there are more people. And it would look like, instead of $15,902, it would look like $52,718. That's a huge difference. And that alone should be enough to just kind of make you pause and wonder if this is the best company and compensation plan out there. And we'll talk more about that as we go. So with doTERRA, if our percentages were inverted, this is what the income would look like with the volume that's possible. It's $45,116.97 if we were to flip our numbers. And then if you see what it looks like with doTERRA's actual plan, it is instead $99,555.95. So again, just by flipping the order that those percentages are in a descending order versus ascending order, you can see a huge difference. And I don't know of another company doing it quite this way. Most companies do have what we would consider the upside down or the descending percentages. So we flipped that, and this gives us a really generous long-term payout plan. Let's talk about the other types of bonuses you can earn. I know UNILEVEL is a little bit confusing at the beginning. Again, just know that it's there and it will be growing for you. But right now at the beginning of your business, if that's where you're at, there's a couple of things you need to understand more so than UNILEVEL. One is the Power of 3 bonus. This bonus is designed to reward loyalty rewards orders and proper structure. So when you have 3 people who are on their LRP and they're each ordering 100 PV or more, and they're on your front line, so those darker blue circles, and your total volume between yourself and everyone on your front line, those 3 people included plus anyone else who might be on your front line, is at least 600 OV, then you're going to be earning $50 a month. So then what happens after that is you think it's pretty cool to be earning your $50 a month. Maybe you're earning some other commission and bonuses as well, and you're making up the cost of your oils, and that's exciting. That's usually everyone's first milestone. And then those people in the dark blue circles are taught about this Power of 3 bonus, and they want to earn their $50 a month. So they go out and find, and maybe you help them find, those 3 each in the purple circles. So those people are earning their $50 bonus, and that means you're earning your $250 on your second generation. And then you start to build down to your third generation, and you help the purple circles earn their $50 a month, which means the blue circles are earning their $250, and you are earning $1,500 a month on your third generation. So I've seen people do this as early on in their business as silver, I've seen others that it took until platinum or diamond to earn their 1,500. It all depends on how your structure looks, and it is a bonus. You need to remember it's a bonus, so don't necessarily depend on it. Now, some people will teach build to your power of 3, and you can do that. You can even pretend it's a power of 4 so that you have a backup plan for your power of 3 in case someone can't order 100 that month. But this will depend on how well you're doing your membership overviews and follow-up and getting to know those people within their first 14 days to decide where you want to place them after you've enrolled them. There are a lot of different factors, but it is, to an extent, out of our control. So it is a bonus, and we need to think of it that way. If someone does happen to need to order less one month, dōTERRA allows us to make up the difference. So let's say you're working toward your 1,500, but there are a couple of people, maybe one of those in purple and one of those in orange on this chart, who can't quite do their 100. Let's say one of them does a 40 PV order and the other one does a 50 PV order, and you're looking through your structure and seeing that there's some PV missing. You could go in and place a 60 PV order with the person's permission under their account, and dōTERRA will add those two numbers, the 40 and 60, together to equal your 100. And then on the other person's account, you could go in and place a 50 PV order on their LRP. And again, those would be added together to make up the difference. So that is an option when you're looking at this. It's not one you want to have to use, certainly not on a consistent every month basis, but it is a way that you can fill in the gaps, which is really nice of dōTERRA to give us that option. So a lot of people do prescribe to, well, I'm going to build to my power of 3 and rank will follow. And that does happen that way, but it doesn't always happen that way perfectly. So again, think of it as a bonus, and you can choose to work with your mentor on which focus you want to have for your business. And we'll talk more about rank in a minute. So power of 3 and then fast start are the two forms of commission you need to understand the most at the beginning of your business. The fast start bonus is paid on enrollments. So if you are not seeing a return on your investment into your business, if you're not seeing the kind of income you would like to yet, most likely it's because you're not enrolling. And those that you have enrolled are not yet enrolling. So this is really, really important. This is the main type of income you want to focus on at the beginning of your business, and really for the first few or for several months, this will be the bulk of your income and what you need to work on the most. You need to bring in new people. And when you personally enroll someone new to dōTERRA, you earn 20% commission on their orders for their first 60 days. Then let's say that person that you enrolled, so that would be again the blue circle, they enroll someone in the purple circle. That person in blue will be earning the 20%, but you will earn 10%. And then someone in the purple circle enrolls someone, and that would be the orange. You would be earning 5% on that person. So this can really grow over time. You're only paid this 20, 10, or 5% on the person's first 60 days and what they order in their first 60 days. After the first 60 days, it rolls over into the UNILEVEL. So depending where they're placed in your structure, you would then be earning 2 to 7% on them instead of the 20, 10, and 5%. But it is a really great bonus that's commission that's paid weekly. So you get paid this every week, and that's very motivating. A lot of people will get a check in the mail for $40 and not even realize that they were going to be earning a check because they just shared oils with a friend, and now they're seeing some income come from that. So then people start to get excited and think, well, I wonder if I could do that again. And then they enroll someone else and maybe have some classes, have some one-on-ones, start sharing with some friends and family long distance, and they start seeing these checks coming in weekly. And maybe it's $100 a week if they're enrolling 2 or 3 new people a week. And that is a lot of money that can change people's lives, especially at the beginning when people are just starting to share and build their businesses. So this is a great form of income to focus on. And if your income starts to decrease or, again, is not growing as quickly as you would like, then you need to go back to the basics of sharing and sampling and inviting new people to classes and to take a look at the oils and to sit down with you and learn. So back to education, and you'll start seeing this fast start, and that will lead to the other forms of commission as you continue to build. There is also retail commission. Wellness advocates earn 25% profit on purchases made by retail customers. They could go to your website to do that. You can go into your back office and look at what your website name is and change it if you would like. And you can put that on your business cards. You can share it with others. They can buy products online, or maybe they just want to buy one product at retail from a class. I put a picture of a bucket here because this is really hauling buckets. This is not building a pipeline. This is a one-time purchase. And if someone buys retail from you, they can turn around and buy retail from someone else. They may not necessarily be loyal to you. Whereas if they have a wholesale membership, they're going to order through their membership so they can get their discount. So I don't earn more than probably $50 a year at the very most in retail. I don't even remember the last time someone purchased something from me at retail, because by the time people purchase 2 or 3 things, they will realize, or you can show them, that it's worth it to have a wholesale membership. If someone buys retail, I'm going to follow up with them really carefully and see that they're using their oil and make sure they're getting results. And then if they're ready to reorder, or if they're ready to order more, then I'm going to help them get their wholesale membership and bring them into my team that way. We also have leadership pools. This will come along later, again, when you have been building for a while, and this comes along as silver. So I have seen some people on our team get to silver within just a few months of starting to build their business, and I've seen others take a couple years or more. So again, the time is not really what we focus on as far as number of days or weeks or years or months or whatever that it takes to reach a rank. We don't really measure that at all, but if we were to, it would be in the number of conversations, the number of oils shared, the number of classes taught. That's how you would measure the business in terms of how long it takes. So silver is where you start to get leadership bonus pools every month. So what the company does is split up 6% of total global profits amongst those who are rank of silver and above. So anyone who's silver and above is getting a share, basically a profit share from the company. And that's international sales. So that's not just going to be my own team, that's going to be dōTERRA wide, the entire billion-dollar company. So even though it may not be someone on my team, they might be all the way across the world, I'm earning a percentage. And I really love that the company does this. I do think it helps to foster a global sense of community amongst our wellness advocates, so that there's less of that competitive feeling, knowing that we're all benefiting from each other's success. So they split this up between 5 different bonus pools. And when you are silver, on average, it's about $150 a month, your one share for being silver. When you're gold, you get 5 shares. It's about $750 a month. Platinum, 10 shares, $1,500 or so a month. When you get up to diamond, it's a different pool, and it's about $4,000 per month. And then blue diamond is anywhere from $9,000 to $12,000 a month. There's a much larger range there, because every month it's going to depend on the total profits of the company and how many people are hitting that particular rank and eligible to earn that share that month. Presidential diamond will be $15,000 to $35,000 a month. So this is a really nice thing to know. This is coming. But again, this is something not to focus on if you're newer in your business and beginning to build. This is just something to know is coming down the line for you. So those are the 5 ways that we get paid. And the leadership pools is basically like a piece of the pie. You're just getting a piece of what dōTERRA's revenue is bringing in, and getting to profit share in that. So let's look at our average annual earnings. This is 2011, 12, and 13. And I stopped it there because it's holding very strong with what we hit in 2013, almost identical in 2014 and 2015, and we're tracking similarly in 2016. So you can see how it grew from the silver average being about $9,600 per year to $17,400, and now about $26,000, and kind of leveling out at that point. Not that it couldn't grow more in the future, but we're holding very strong in spite of very quick growth, and that really speaks to just the strength of our compensation plan and structure. And so it's not necessarily plateauing, but it is holding strong, and it will continue to grow, but it may not grow as quickly as it did when the company was newer. So it's good to see the company holding strong at these numbers, and in spite of how many more people are reaching silver and above, those numbers are not going down. So that just shows that our product is holding its value and our compensation plan is holding strong. So you can see the average annual earnings at these different levels, silver through presidential diamond. And this is what it breaks down to monthly for 2015. The averages were about $2,100 a month for silver, $4,700 a month for gold, $8,800 a month for platinum, $16,900 at diamond, $41,500 at blue diamond, and $114,000 at presidential. So for those who don't know, I'm at the diamond level, and my best friend Tanya Cottrell is at the blue diamond level, and she has been doing this she signed up about 7 months before I did. So she's been in this for about 4 years, and I've been in for 3.5. The average incomes at lower levels are harder to predict. The company does not publish those because, again, your fast start is going to vary so much depending on exactly how many people you are enrolling. So that will fluctuate, but this is kind of what I've seen in my business and others that I've talked to. This gives you an idea of where we're at. So executive is about $200 a month, elite about $400 a month, premier about $800 a month. So you can see then the numbers that we've already looked at. But I like to, when I'm doing this live, have people stand who are at these different ranks, just so you can see around the room those who are already at these levels and who are working toward higher levels. And it also is a good way for me to remind people that you have to give it enough time, and you can't expect overnight results. So like I said earlier, that we count our business in our number of conversations and classes. It's kind of like the way a pilot logs hours. If you ask a pilot how long he's been a pilot, he's not going to answer you in number of years. He's going to tell you how many hours he's flown. And the analogy I like to use with this, it goes well with being a pilot, but also just to have people think about, if it were to take 1 year in your business for you to reach executive and you're earning a couple $100s a month, 1 year of consistent sharing, that's a lot for not a lot of return. Now, it doesn't usually take that long, but it can. So just imagine if it were to take a year, and then it would take 2 years to reach elite. So after 2 years of working this, you're just at that $400 a month plan, but you have a vision, you know where you're going, you're consistently going to keep building, you're seeing lives changed, and you're still having to haul buckets because you can't pay your bills on $400 a month. So you're still working another job, or your spouse or significant other is, but you have a vision, you're building a business. And honestly, most people who are building businesses, such as buying a franchise or starting their own business, do not start to see a profit coming back for several years, or at least several months. So let's say it takes 3 months to get to premier, and look at that average monthly income. Then it takes 4 years to get to silver. Now it's starting to feel worth it, right? This is feeling like, okay, this is real income. I can pay my mortgage and car payment maybe with that much money. Then gold is in your 5th year. It takes 6 years for you to get to platinum, 7 years working your business to get to diamond, 8 years for blue diamond, and then let's say it takes a couple extra years to get to presidential diamond, so it takes 10 years. So would it be worth it to build this business consistently for the next 10 years if you knew that you could be earning $114,000 per month? Everyone always says, yeah, of course. And I'm so proud to represent doTERRA because of the growth that we've had and how generous the compensation plan is, and that I know real people who are making presidential, blue, diamond income, and the company is only 8 years old. So you know it didn't take anybody 10 years to build a presidential diamond, and there's going to be so many more presidential diamonds coming out of this company in the next 10 years. So just think about that. Would it be worth it? Because we're not money focused, but I know that it's good for us to evaluate what the income potential is. So we don't like to talk about money a lot. It makes a lot of people uncomfortable to talk about that. But it's important because if you were going back to college, for example, to become a nurse or an engineer, you would probably consider potential income as part of your decision. It would not be the only reason. Your natural aptitude and desires and dreams would come into that. But it would be a wise consideration in your choice to know what your income could be after you have paid X amount of dollars to go to school to learn that trade. So that's why we talk a little more in this particular webinar about what the income opportunity is. All right, but let's look at apples to apples here, okay? So there are some other really successful companies. Many of them are great companies with good compensation plans, good products, and I'm not going to bash any of them. These are some of the top companies in our country in the network marketing industry. Some of them have been around for quite a while. Some of them are newer than doTERRA. So we're just going to look at what their average incomes are at their top 6 levels. That doesn't necessarily mean that their top levels correspond exactly to doTERRA's top levels, and as far as amount of volume, amount of people, just in terms of all of those different factors. But network marketing companies tend to rank their consultants in these levels, and so their leadership levels are generally their top 3 or 4 levels. And so you can see what the incomes look like at each of these. These are just public information. So we're not sharing anything that isn't public knowledge here, but just looking at the top 6 levels and what it looks like to be in any of these other 5 companies. So just giving you a minute to kind of evaluate and look at which ones seem more generous. So the others companies' averages from their top leadership levels are really good income. These are great, nothing wrong with this. A couple of them look very similar to what I was looking at in my previous company. And it was exciting to know where I thought I was going, and things did not work out that way. And I'm thankful now that I'm in this company instead. But let's add doTERRA in this last column so you can see how we stack up. So quite honestly, if doTERRA were the lowest in all of these categories on all of these levels, it wouldn't matter to me. I would just be happy to know we're close. Maybe we're not where all of these others are, but we still have the best products, the best culture, the best company. I love what we stand for. I love our mission. I love essential oils. And I don't care that we're not ranking as high on what we earn, because that's not why we do what we do. I don't know anyone who does what we do in doTERRA because they're motivated solely by the money. However, when you compare, it's obvious that we're higher. And we didn't just pick the companies that are lower on purpose. We picked some of the most successful companies that are often compared to doTERRA for some reason or another, and whether because of the types of products they have or type of compensation plan that they have, and we beat them all. So this does prove that we are among the most generous in the country and even in the world. And again, I would represent this company even if we were middle of the road, or even if we were the lowest ranking, it would still be worth it because I love what I do and I love helping others. However, just knowing that we do rate the highest is kind of that icing on the cake. It is just amazing to see these numbers and to realize I kind of stumbled into this because I fell in love with the oils. I didn't know we had the best compensation plan. I really had no clue what our compensation plan was like for several weeks or even several months, honestly. All right, so we've looked at that, and I want you to just imagine. So you've looked at the income levels, you know kind of what the averages are, and I just want you to imagine for a minute what it would be like if you did have that pipeline dropping that income into your bank account. Now, it's not to say it's just appearing magically, because you're going to be working for it. But with dōTERRA, we know that part-time is really part of part-time. So you can do this and be successful in 5 to 10 hours a week. If you can put 10 to 20 hours a week into it, you can be really successful. So imagine if you were having an extra $1,000 show up in your bank account for doing something that you love and sharing something you believe in. What would that do for you? How would it change your life? Now imagine that it's $5,000. What would you do differently? How would you live differently? What if it were $10,000 every single month? How about $50,000 a month? Now we're getting into some really big numbers, right? What about $100,000 a month? Because you saw that presidential diamond average income. Imagine, if you can, what it would be like to have $100,000 or more per month in your bank account. Does that feel a little bit almost ridiculous? I hear people even say things like, well, nobody needs to earn that kind of money. But at some point, when all of our material needs are met, we start to imagine, I could help, I could give. We start to dream big. It's not about us and our material needs anymore. So I want to just challenge you and encourage you to keep imagining. Don't stop dreaming. Keep thinking about what you could do, that orphanage you could start, that charitable foundation that you could fund, that ministry work that you really believe in, that you could support, those children you could adopt, whatever it is for you, your bigger purpose, maybe something you stopped believing a while ago because life and bills and other things got in the way. But just imagine, if that were possible, how you could make the world a better place. And that's what our team is really about. So if you're thinking this might be for you, if you're drawn to this culture, this company, these products, this idea, if you have considered this compensation plan and you want to know more about how you can be a part of it, you need to talk to the person who invited you, or your mentor, your enroller, your upline, someone who's helping you in your journey, about what your desires are. Talk to them. Which pathway are you on? Which is the road that you want to pursue? How many hours per week can you put into this? Where do you want to be in the next few months, 6 months, 12 months, 5 years? Set some goals. Look at what might be feasible, and your team support person will help you to know if the goal you're setting is on track with the amount of time and activity that you're doing, and just to kind of keep you accountable for that. You can plug into team support that we have on Facebook, via email. We do some phone calls sometimes. A lot of it is online, and we do have local areas where we've got a lot of local support. But if you're not close to that, don't worry. In this day and age with our technology, we can keep connected and support each other long distance really well. So plug into that. Plan your business launch if you haven't already launched your business. I'm really consider doing 4 classes in a week, and we have a separate webinar that my friend Tanya Cottrell did, all about launching your business really effectively. There's actually a few different webinars on that I'd recommend. It is in my business group files on Facebook, and also my Dropbox that I share via email. So get plugged into those and learn how you can launch your business most effectively. But 4 classes within a week, or a couple within a week, and at least 4 to 6 in your first month will really get you off to a good start. Or if you're going to go at a slower pace, that's okay too. Do what works for you, but plan it. Have a plan. And then there really just are 4 steps that we follow when we're doing this business. We find people, we teach them about essential oils, we enroll them onto our teams, and then we duplicate that. We do it again and again, and then we show others how to do that. And that's really what it boils down to. So these are the first steps, the first things that you need to learn how to do if you're going to start building toward the business that you want with dōTERRA. So I just want to thank you again for taking time to listen, to learn a little bit. I didn't go into deep detail about some things. I know there'll be some questions. Feel free to ask those on the Facebook thread, or just connect with your upline support, including me, if you're on my team, about any questions you might have about this. But really commit to the process of sharing, finding, teaching, enrolling, duplicating, doing those things, showing up at business trainings, whether online or in person. I hope to see many of you, most of you, all of you at our annual convention, where you'll learn and grow so much, and at the retreats and trainings and other opportunities that we offer to help you grow, and that you'll also just commit to the process of doing the work that it takes day in and day out, the daily disciplines to make this work. So if you're looking for some practical steps, I do recommend scheduling your classes, deciding what rank you want to be at by when, the dollar amount of income you need, when you're going to enroll a certain number of people. Those are all examples of goals. You want to have a names list, and check your phone, check your email, your Facebook, use your memory, and then circle those you'd really love to partner with. Family, friends, community, coworkers, anyone you'd love to work with, kind of your dream team, and talk to them first. Get them to a class, get them to try some samples and learn more, and don't be afraid to tell them, I would love for you to do this with me. I'd love to work together. And of course, they're not all going to say yes. Maybe none of them will at the beginning, but it will get their wheels turning. They'll be thinking about it, and you can continue to share a little bit more as they're open to learning. So those are just some examples of things you could get busy doing even right now, even if it's midnight, whenever you're watching this. You could start making a list of names and just kind of dreaming and thinking about who you can share with, who you could invite to take a look at the oils and come to a class, take a look at the business, and be on the lookout for upcoming training opportunities and things that are coming up on the calendar. And again, I just thank you for taking time to listen, and I hope it was helpful to you. I would love your feedback, and I look forward to connecting with you soon. Bye.